let's talk about some movies that might be. Uh, it's funny to have this conversation, right? Because we pretty much had this conversation about a lot of the movies that we're going to mention today last year. Um, Movies in 2021, as we've talked about, just did not come out because of COVID.
Yeah.
So everything's getting pushed back. New York City, as of May 19th, will be at 100% openness, according to the most recent reports. So, with that, it's a pretty good indicator that movies most likely will also be coming out as scheduled. Some things still not on the schedule yet, but
Right.
we're expecting to have a really contentious, I think, race this year. There's a lot of movies that are going to be really high quality, vying for a limited number of spots. There's a lot of movies to get to today. I was thinking before we touch on the movies we did talk about, what are some movies, probably some more like blockbustery movies that are
Yeah.
going to get a lot of I don't know, a lot of attention, but probably won't get Oscar buzz.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to start. And like you said, the theaters have opened up or are about to be completely opened up. And we've seen big box office success, pandemic standards aside, recently from blockbuster fare like Godzilla vs. Kong, Mortal Kombat, Demon Slayer on the anime side. You can expect these blockbusters to come out because I think we have seen that as vaccinations have increased, at least in the US and in places like China where the pandemic's under control. Uh, there is an appetite to go to the movies. And whether that continues in places like Canada and Europe, where they're in a different state of affairs, we might see really staggered releases. But I think the studios are very invested in putting these movies out, and the theater owners are obviously desperate for these movies to come out. But there's
Mhm.
also audience buy-in, which is great because obviously we've been worried about if streaming and the windowing changes would affect audience behavior. At least it hasn't completely yet. So we're going to get all these movies, and it's May 2021, so we have a little more than half of the year left, but there is a big chunk of big movies that probably won't contend for Oscars, but will certainly contend for eyeballs and, maybe the visual effects Oscars and other stuff like that. And I mean, there's just really obvious ones, right? You got 4 Marvel movies: Black Widow, Eternals, Shang-Chi, and Spider-Man 3.
Yep.
You have Fast and Furious 9. You
Yeah.
have Top Gun Maverick. You
Space
have
baby.
The Suicide Squad, and you have No Time to Die.
Hmm.
Not to mention something maybe a little higher minded, but similar in Denis Villeneuve's Dune.
Yep.
This is a lot of high profile, hotly anticipated franchise films.
Yep.
Really exciting.
Very exciting. And I can't wait to watch most of these. I think like I'm a little marveled out. I think especially after Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I'm not as
Mm.
excited to watch those, but I certainly understand that there's a lot of buzz around them. I'm even thinking about some of the movies like even like Cruella, right?
Mm.
High profile. You have Emily Blunt, obviously
Mm-mm.
starring in.
Close. Emma Stone.
Sorry, Emma Stone. Jeez, I was thinking of A Quiet Place Part Two, which
Yes.
I was
There you
also
go.
going to bring up in the conversation. Emma Stone, starring in this role, um, probably not going to be nominated for an Oscar, but gonna it's gonna make a lot of money. That's gonna get a lot of attention. Kids are. I think it's gonna be you know a movie that kids can go to, but also I think adults, especially like our age range, will probably be interested because we grew up with
Mm.
101
Yeah.
Dalmatians.
That will
Um,
be on Disney Plus Premier Access as well as theaters like Black Widow. So, money figures aside. But yeah, I think like all the Disney remakes, with the exception of like the Dumbo remake, like people are gonna go see it.
Yep. I mentioned A Quiet Place Part Two, another movie that's gonna obviously uh, probably make a lot of money.
Hmm. Oh,
um,
in the fall, we should mention Halloween Kills, the sequel to the
yep.
most recent reboot of Halloween, and of course that was a very successful movie. So you have to imagine people are really excited to see that come October. I'm sure that will do bonkers.
Yep, we're gonna have Space Jam, which I think the temperature on that has gone up since
Yeah,
the trailer. I think
Ready
people are
Player
looking.
One Part Two, by the look of
Yeah,
it, surprising.
those Clockwork Orange people showing up was such a
Oh my god,
surprise. Did you mention Jungle Cruise,
I
which
did
is
not.
like yeah,
Who knows if that's any good? That's a
probably
Disney
not.
live action film based on a long running theme park ride at Disney World starring The Rock and Emily Blunt.
Yep. We have Free Man, or is that
Free
right?
Guy,
Free Guy. Yep.
Ryan
Uh,
Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds. So there's some fun movies coming out. I think then let's talk about the movies that should have come out already, that are coming out or we expect to come out this year and are probably going to be Oscar worthy. Where do you want to start with this one?
So there's a few obvious ones. We can start with one that's coming up very soon. That would be In the Heights, directed by John Chu, of course, the live action adaptation of Manuel Miranda's first hit musical starring Anthony Ramos, and that'll be out June 11th and also available to start on HBO Max as a Warner Brothers release. And there seems to be a lot of buzz about In the Heights, which is great. And you have to imagine this movie's going to be a huge hit, the way Hamilton was gobbled up,
Mhm.
and just how popular anything with Lynn is these days.
When you said coming out soon, you said June 11th. I was like, that's not that soon. It's very soon. It's like basically a month away. Kind of crazy. Um, yeah, no, I think In the Heights has a good shot to maybe get some, probably not like Best Picture, but more so some of those down ballot, like costume, set design type
Mm.
nominations. Similar
Does it
to,
count as original song if the songs were already like written like years and years ago? Like this musical's over 10 years old. It's not like it's new. Like I
yeah.
actually don't know how that works.
Well, if we're going to talk about original song, we might see Lin Manuel Miranda quite a bit if these do count, because he also is producing Encanto for
Right.
Pixar, and he's writing the music for that. So I assume he'll probably get at least one song nominated for that. I wanted to stay in the realm of the musicals though, because we recently got the trailer for West Side Story from Steven Spielberg, his adaptation of the 1961 uh, best musical
Hmm.
to screen adaptation of all time. Won 10 uh, Academy
Yep.
Awards. Why we needed this, I'm not sure. Why we needed Ansel Elgort, I
Ugh,
believe.
that is
I don't
aging
know.
poorly.
But Rita Moreno is giving her blessing and is involved. So, okay.
The
I could
shot
see.
of the sharks and jets when it's like top down, it's like, yes, give me all the shots in the musicals. Let's go.
I'm excited for it, but I'm also just like, we didn't need
Yeah.
this.
I
But
gotta say, similar to Ready Player One, I wish Steven Spielberg was taking a different tack with his late period career because he's an older man. He only has so many movies left. You don't need to remake West Side Story, something that was so great. It didn't. Why would you dare remake it?
yeah,
I would rather him do something like how Ridley Scott's been acting of late. We can talk about him in a second. But yeah, I think between West Side Story and In the Heights, I think both movies will be very popular, and I honestly expect both to be contending.
for
With
Best Picture.
I think so. I think In the Heights is going to be really
Wow.
well liked, and I think it could be there. The only thing that would go against it is it's coming out early. I think we should remember too that nothing that came out before March is even eligible for the upcoming Oscars due to the protracted season that just finally ended for us. So there's only so many movies even out right now that would even be eligible. So In the Heights, in a sense, might be kicking it off. As a con will be starting up around then, film festivals will actually be returning. So you know, maybe it's coming out too early, but I think both will have a really good shot.
I gotta say, if both of those are contending, this race is gonna be really tight, because we're about to hit on some movies we haven't talked about that I think there's a good chance for a lot of these to at least be in the
Mm.
conversation. Just sticking with the ones we talked about last year, I think French Dispatch was one we were all really excited for. Obviously, the Wes Anderson follow up. I guess not follow up, but next film after Isle
Right.
of Dogs.
Yep.
The
First live
cast.
action movie since Grand Budapest. Been a
Yep.
minute. Has that stacked Wes Anderson cast as you'd expect.
Yep.
Now this is a Searchlight's now under Disney's purview. We don't have a release date yet. I have to imagine they'll be putting this out in the theaters in the fall, and eventually it would wind up on Hulu, but no date yet. But they're gonna put it out because this movie's been in the can for almost 2 years at this point.
Yep. You mentioned Dune. I mean, that movie is pretty much doing everything it can to get award buzz. I think this is trying to be like the Tenet of the race for
Mm.
this year, where it's just gonna look awesome. It's gonna have great visual effects. Gonna have a stacked cast. We'll see if it hits with critics. You seem not so sure. It seems.
Well, just because Blade Runner 2049, Denny's last effort, also an IP adaptation, didn't get as
Hmm.
many awards plaudits as maybe people thought it should. Obviously, Deakins won for cinematography, which is no small feat, but I think WB and Denny and friends would really like Dune to have a big awards run. I think it should because it's a different type of movie, but it's still high minded, assuming it's good, of course. So I definitely rooting for it. That one comes out October 1st.
So, are there any others that we haven't mentioned that we talked about last year, like big ones that might be contending?
In terms of big movies, I think those are like quote all the big ones. Last Night in Soho, Edgar Wright's film comes out at the end of
Yeah.
October. Anya Taylor-Joy's in that. Don't know too much about that, but it's Edgar Wright, so people are excited about it. That was supposed to come out in 2020. In terms of other movies that are supposed to come out in 2020, you have the Aretha Franklin biopic, Respect, starring
Mhm.
Jennifer Hudson, who of course is an Oscar winner. That comes out towards the end of the year.
The
Obviously,
Elvis biopic too, at some
I don't
point,
think that's
probably.
dated for this year. They pushed that back. Yeah,
Oh,
there has
really?
been some stuff delayed. Yeah, that's the Baz Luhrmann movie with
Mhm.
Austin
Austin
Butler.
Butler, Tom
Yeah,
Hanks.
yeah, I believe that pushed out. Movie we talked about last time was King Richard, the Will
Mhm.
Smith biopic as Richard Williams, the father of Venus and Serena. Big Willie hasn't made a serious awards run in several years, so people might be excited about if it's a really good performance to get Will Smith back into that sort of thing. So definitely keep an eye on that. That one's coming out around Thanksgiving, so a long way to go there. Um, I mean, there's other stuff that we knew about, like smaller stuff like the Green Knight, the A24 movie with Dev Patel coming out in July. Um, I mean, yeah, there's tons of little notes, but I mean, I think a lot of the, I think more exciting Oscar hopefuls were actually movies that we didn't really have dated for 2020 when everything went to shit. Um, and I think that's what the big takeaway is, right? You have all these holdover movies from 2020, a big slate of blockbusters, and then a lot of other movies that weren't actually 2020 holdovers, but are made by like top tier directors. Like there are tons of best director winners and best director nominated directors with movies coming out this year. Like it's going to be a
Mhm.
bloodbath.
It's gonna be absolutely insane. I'm trying to think about like the movies that we probably expect to be coming out next because a lot of these still don't have dates officially attached, but we are excited about them. And a movie that comes to mind that I expect to be seeing somewhat soon is No Sudden Move from Soderbergh. There isn't a set date, but you have to imagine, especially because they also have the other Soderbergh film, Kimmy, I think it's called. Um,
Yeah. He
you
stopped
have to
filming, or he finished filming No Sun Move back in November, and we know how
November, so it's
fast.
ready.
Yeah, I'm sure that's completely locked in already, and that cast is super exciting. That'll be on HBO Max, so it's Steven Soderbergh, so people pay attention.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about our excitement for that when we reviewed the last Soderbergh movie. I'm blanking on the name,
Let
but
them all talk.
yes, let them all talk. So that one stands out to me as one that we might be seeing soon. Um, in terms of like other really big uh, directors, I mean Guillermo del Toro with
Yeah,
Nightmare Alley coming out December 3rd. I mean his first film that he's directing since The Shape of Water.
yeah. When
Obviously,
he won Best Director.
yeah, it did pretty well there. You got Bradley Cooper, Kate Blanchett. I mean, this cast is absolutely stacked. But like Tony Collette, Willem Dafoe, Rooney
Yeah,
Mara, it's not there. And you have to think. I mean, this is based off a 1946 movie with Del Toro's style and just ability to direct that this is going to be a really interesting movie to watch. And we're going to be seeing a lot of Bradley Cooper. And I noticed a lot of actors repeating in terms of like seeing them in these big movies. So I think potential for multiple nominations in a couple of different movies. You mentioned all those directors. How about your guy Paul Thomas Anderson? He's got a movie coming out this year, Soggy Bottom.
yeah. Not sure if that's the final title, but Soggy Bottom, the next PTA movie, with also Bradley Cooper, dated for Christmas Eve right now. again, it's PTA, people be paying attention. Case
Mhm.
closed.
Yeah. That movie I can't wait for. Which other ones are you thinking? Or I mean, Ridley Scott.
Yeah, so Ridley Scott, uh, well into his 80s at this point, and this guy does not know how to stop working, and you have to respect that. He has The Last Duel, which we had known about a little bit longer, which is the Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Adam Driver, Jodie Comer movie that also was
Yeah.
written by Nicole Holofcener. Sign me up for that. That comes out in October. And then, about 6 weeks later, around Thanksgiving, you have House of Gucci coming out, which I believe is still filming right now, but it's probably almost done. And that, of course, stars Adam Driver and Lady Gaga about the assassination of Gucci, the founder of, Gucci, the fashion brand. And, you know, Ridley is not prone, is certainly prone to having a dud, here and there.
Sure.
So there's no guarantee that both these movies are good. But when you have this kind of cast signed up and, people be paying attention, they're coming out in the fall. So definitely exciting.
And you mentioned people that keep working as they get older. Your guy Clint Eastwood also has a movie coming out that he's not only directing but starring in. The dude is 90 and he's making Cry Macho, where he's
Yes.
playing this like rodeo star who friends a boy, and I guess he has to like basically like take care of the boy or like save him from his situation with his mother. It sounds like the type of movie that is perfect Oscar bait. You have to imagine Clint getting up there in age. People are going to want to probably reward it
Hmm.
if it's good. So I think
He's
it could make a strong push.
Yeah, his movies actually haven't been super well recognized at the Oscars the past few years, like The Mule, Richard Jewell, like close but no cigar for those. But yeah, um, Clint keeps trying. He works as fast as he can, seemingly. One take Clint, as they say. Um, Also, some older figures. We have Paul Schrader's next movie, The Card Counter. Obviously,
Mhm.
First Reformed got some love. 2018 Card Counter stars Oscar Isaac. Also has Willem Dafoe in it. I believe this has already completely been filmed. Another exciting one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's also like a ton of Netflix movies that don't have dates yet, but we know they're coming. A few of those we mentioned last time. Andrew Dominik's Blonde, the Marilyn Monroe biopic starring Anna Armas. Uh, you know, I think that one's easy to understand why that's attractive. Andrew Dominik does not make a whole lot of movies apart from some work on Mindhunter season 2. We haven't seen him
Mhm.
in several years, so that's cool. We also have Don't Look Up, which is a newer Netflix movie. That's the Adam McKay one with crazy cast: Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Kate Blanchett, Chalamet, and many others. We have another movie we knew about before, The Tragedy of Macbeth, Joel
Mhm.
Cohen, starring Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand, NBD.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, smaller movies like you have Hand of God or Paolo Sorrentino's next movie that'll be on Netflix. You
Yeah.
have Tick Tick Boom, Lin Manuel Miranda's directorial debut.
Yep.
Um, Passing, the Sundance hit that they acquired, Rebecca Hall's directorial debut, starring Ruth Negga and Tessa Thompson. Netflix, they are a major figure in the award season at this point. We've really seen it the past few years. They don't have a best picture yet, but again, they'll be putting another strong foot forward to try and finally break through. That seems pretty obvious.
For sure. Out of these Netflix ones, because it is a little bit of like a dog eat dog type thing, I imagine, where I think, especially as movie theaters are opening up, I know a lot of movies are going to be released simultaneously in this next year, hopefully exclusively for this year. But I have to imagine that some of the voters will be giving a little bit of a edge to movies that maybe help the box office or help drive up the stature of movies right now. It, I couldn't. I really can't see too many streaming services getting the call if some of these other movies that are put out in theaters are just up to the quality. Like I think of something like the new Denzel movie, A Journal of Jordan,
Yeah,
where Michael B. Jordan is starring in this, and it's based on a novel of the same name, coming out early December the
yeah.
10th.
I believe that's a Sony movie.
seems like this is, kind of being set up to be something that could really rival something like Tick Tick Boom, which is also like autobiographical. And I think if it comes down to one of those two, I think voters would probably much rather go for a movie that's released in theaters initially and not
Mm.
one that's put out on streaming. I could see that becoming, I don't know, a conversation around the
Yeah,
awards.
that's an interesting thought because on the other hand, Netflix employs so many people. The
True.
majority of the academy, working academy anyways, probably work for Netflix at this
Well,
point.
that's a good point.
So it's tough. I think it's really hard to know how much Netflix bias there still is because again, they've been getting tons and tons of nominations the past few years. But yeah, this year does present its own challenges with the desire to save the theatrical movie going business and
Mhm.
thus keep everyone working the way they'd like to be. So yeah, tough to really know until we fast forward a year, I guess.
Yeah. Just kind of looking, are there any other movies you want to shout out? I think I had two that kind of stood out as some of those like lower, maybe not lower, but like those smaller movies that could really stand out, like a Nomadland, so to speak.
Mm,
One that really stood out to me is a movie called Coda, which was
yeah,
purchased by Apple Plus out of Sundance for $25 million. Set a record. Um, it
coming out in
stars
August, I believe.
stars a actress named Amelia Jones. Seems like this is one of her like really first big roles. She plays a teenager who is the only person in her family who can hear. She is very musical, and it's kind of about her journey as she starts to like love music and kind of grow in that world. And that feels like something that, obviously if it's coming out of Sundance and being purchased for the most money, probably Apple has a lot of stock in it, but they're also dropping it in early August. So I could see that having a like never, rarely, sometimes, always type arc where when it comes out, we're like, this looks like it could be Oscar nominated, and then when it comes time, it just loses steam for the run. That one's on my radar for sure.
Mhm. Oh well, along those lines, we should consider everything A24 has coming out this
Sure.
year. Dated for the end of June, we have Zola, which was a big hit at Sundance 2020, starring Taylor Page.
Mhm.
Supposed to be really great. Looking forward to that. There's also another bunch of other A24 movies that we knew about last year and just don't have dates yet, but we know they're finished. That would be Mike Mills' Come On, starring Joaquin Phoenix, Kogonada's After Yang with Haley Richardson, The Souvenir Part 2 from Joanna Hogg, Souvenir Part
Mhm.
1. So The Souvenir was a kind of a sleeper indie hit. Really like that one. Um, and I think you mentioned Coda. That's clearly Apple's,
Yep.
throw of the dart there.
Jam.
And then I think then you get to the point where, oh, that's right. You mentioned this one last year too. Another movie that we know is finished. That would be Next Goal Wins, the Taika Waititi movie with
Oh
Michael
yeah.
Fassbender, the soccer film. Um, no
Fast
date
Bender
yet.
season, baby.
Yeah, but you have to imagine that's going to come out this year. I can't see anything that's been filmed being held this year. I think this a lot of the stuff that's filming now, maybe that gets held due to the just the bulk on the calendar, like Bullet Train, David Leitch's
Mhm.
movie starring Brad Pitt, action thriller. They're filming that now. I doubt they try and force that in to this year's season. Uh, Also, you have Canterbury Glass, the newly titled David O. Russell film that has a very stacked cast. As far as we know, that's still filming. So again, I don't know if they're going to rush to put these movies out during this season. Um,
One
I
other one that stood out as possibility is the new Michael Showalter movie, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, looking at
yeah,
the televangelist Tammy Faye Baker and Jim Baker.
yeah,
You
right
got
about that one.
Jessica Chastain and Andrew Garfield again. Garfield season this year. Um, yeah, I think that one could have a chance. Probably going to be at Toronto Film Fest.
Mhm.
Release late September, so it's kind of around that award season time.
Should also note that Robert Eggers has another movie coming out after The Witch and The Lighthouse. He once again has Anya Taylor Joy in the fold. This is called The Northman, which is set in 10th century Iceland, which stars Alexander Skarsgård as a Nordic prince who seeks revenge after his father is murdered. Also has Willem Dafoe back, like from The Lighthouse. It's Robert Eggers. He definitely has a unique style to him. And obviously, anything with Anya Taylor-Joy, I feel like is required viewing these days. So
Yeah.
another movie that I believe it's been filmed because Anya was filming this back when she was doing Queen's Gambit press. So I'm pretty sure this movie's done at this point.
Mhm.
No date yet though.
Two more films I just wanted to shout out, and then maybe we'll make a few predictions, if we will. Um, the Summer of Love, the Questlove documentary,
Yeah.
got a lot of buzz at Sundance this year. Won the Sundance Grand Jury Prize, the Audience Award for Documentary. Probably, obviously not a Best Picture runner, but one that you're going to be hearing a lot about. And it sounds super interesting, chronicling Black Woodstock, the Harlem Culture Festival of 1989, or 1969. Sorry. And then there's a, is there a chance Killer of the Flower Moon,
Hmm.
late entry into the race, maybe like that January, February drop, and then we're just like, man, Scorsese just fucking wrecked this race, just destroyed it.
So they just started filming Killers of the Flower Moon. So
Mhm.
I don't think they would force this one in.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know though. I'd say probably not. Again,
I don't think
there,
so either, but
yeah,
if
that's
it
exciting though,
does.
right? And there's tons of other movies, but I mean we've just named so many people that are Oscar winners and Oscar nominated people. Like it's gonna be tough, and I think it'll actually make for a really fun award season, assuming award season gets to return to like its normal ways where it's much more buzzy and people
Mhm.
are actually seeing the movies, which is kind of the whole point of everything. So uh,
Dave,
it's exciting.
give me like three movies that you feel really strongly will be Best Picture nominated.
Yeah. French Dispatch, West Side Story, take those to the bank, both of
Hmm.
them. And let's see. Hmm, it's hard to say. I'm really confident in The Heights, but I wouldn't lock it in. I'm confident in Respect. I'm confident in King Richard. Let's put House of Gucci in there, third lock.
That's a call, man, because House of Gucci feels like the biggest boom or bust one. I like it though.
Driver, baby.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna pick three different ones from you. I think whatever PTAs ends up being named will be in there.
Yep,
We'll call it Soggy Bottom for now. I think the Card Counter. I think
that'd be
Paul
dope.
Schrader is gonna be like anointed after this movie, and Oscar Isaac is just gonna rise. And, in looking through the rest, I think this movie Passing, the Rebecca
Yes.
Hall movie
If
with
you're picking a Netflix movie, I think that's the best pick.
I think Tessa Thompson and Ruth Nega. I think that's going to be the one that comes out, and people are like, "Huh, okay, we gotta check it out now." So
Yeah.
that's
Something
going to
for
be my
Netflix
three.
is going to get picked, so it's smart to pick one of them at least. So I
Mhm.
agree.
If you had to pick one of the movies we mentioned that you think is just going to totally disappoint or fall flat, any that stand out to you?
Oh man, that's hard.
That's
Um,
hard.
I just get this feeling that like I wouldn't be shocked if Nightmare Alley doesn't do as much as it's supposed to. It's Del
Hmm.
Toro, so he's kind of goes to the beat of his own drum a little bit. It's got a stellar cast though. Hard to pick against it.
Yeah, that one stood out to me as well, and I think maybe it's because like I really don't know much about it. Maybe if I did a little more reading, I'd feel good about it. Um, But I guess as I'm looking, I think Respect. While I think that the songs are going to be good, I think it could be kind of like the Billie Holiday of the awards
Yeah.
season, where it's really strong performance, but just doesn't really land. Although there's a lot of good people attached to it, so um, I hope it doesn't turn out that way. But that would be my call. Anyways, drop us your predictions. Drop us the movies you're most excited for. What did we miss? What are your locks for the next year's award season? And stay tuned with us by subscribing on youtube.com/nostalgiapod, soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod, and on Twitter @nostalgiapod.